I am. Call the meeting to order. It is the mission of Montague Area Public Schools to educate and inspire all students to become motivated, articulate, productive, and successful citizens for today, tomorrow, and forever. Item number 1 on the agenda is, item number 2 is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 3 is a roll call.
Mr. Rath?
Here.
Mr. Johnson? Here. Mrs. Francis? Here. Mr. Weisheisen?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Neubauer? Here. And Mrs. Dahl is absent.
Item 4 is approval of the agenda. So moved by Tom, support by Joel. Discussion? It's actually Scott. Oh, was it Scott? Sorry, I didn't hear. It's all Scott, not Joel. All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
Support.
Moved by Tom, support by Scott. Discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6 is the public comment portion of the meeting. Public comments will be accepted at this time. Each statement shall be limited to 5 minutes in duration. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. The board welcomes public comment but does not respond to citizens' concerns at its meetings. At the citizens' request and the board's direction, the superintendent or designee will respond in a timely manner. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. We have 2 people on the sign-in list, so if you would stand up and just introduce yourself, give your address, and then comment on what you have for the board. Oh, I think you call them up. Zan Trevino. Sorry.
Hi, I'm 8864 South Ocean Drive in Montague. And I have an issue with the wrestling coaches.
Okay.
In March, just before the West Michigan Conference.
Can you come a little closer so the board can hear better? Thank you. Sorry not to put you on the spot. You can come all the way up front. But.
Okay. In March, the West Michigan Conference, the junior high wrestled in, let's see, it was Reese Puffer. Okay. My grandson does wrestle for Whitehall, which that's not my concern here. But the wrestling coaches targeted about 6 students because they wrestle my way. The My Way rules state that they can wrestle 2 tournaments prior to the regional tournament to wrestle for state. So these boys did do this. They did wrestle. But on Friday, the day before, the athletic director from Montague contacted the athletic director in Whitehall. They went to these kids and told them, you have to make a choice. You either wrestle regionals to go to wrestle for state, or you wrestle West Michigan Conference, where only you are not allowed to wrestle. If you go to wrestle regionals, regionals is on the Sunday after the Greater Muskegon tournament, then you can't wrestle the conference. But, so my grandson did, he wrestled regionals and went on to state, was unable to wrestle in the conference. But I do know that Montague kids wrestled in tournaments, and it also states varsity coaches or none of the coaches can coach in a My Way tournament. Every one of the junior high NBC coaches, they coach the kids on My Way, and the varsity coach coaches his own son and on the My Way program, which it states in the Michigan High School Athletic Association states they cannot do that. And they targeted out these boys. And then they turned around and targeted a 2nd grader, a 3rd grader, and a 4th grader, and turned them in. So, and I had the 2 they turned in the 3rd and 4th grade were also my grandsons. So now I got 2 grandsons saying, well, if I wrestle My Way, when I get into junior high, I can't wrestle. These kids, and when I called Jay, I called him twice. He returned my phone call on the Thursday, the 21st, and told me that there's rules. Okay, I understand there's rules. Well then, if these kids have to follow these rules, then why isn't the coaches following the rules? That's how I look at it. If the kids have to follow them, the coaches have to follow them. He also told me he was going to call the AA and get back to me Thursday afternoon or on Friday. I've never heard a word back. Never have I heard a word back. And I do have proof that the varsity coach of Montague was coaching at the My Way state tournament. It's right here. Right on the side of the mat. And if somebody contacted My Way, you can see how many times he signed in to coach and everything else. And I know there's riffraff going on between the two varsity teams, which I myself, living in a Montague, I support all the schools. I support from Hart to Muskegon, all the kids, especially when it comes to sports. My kids went to school here, and in 36 years, I've never had to come and make a complaint
1 minute remaining.
at the school board. And I just feel that the varsity coach, what he did was wrong. And for him to turn around and say, these kids had to abide by the rules, he needs to learn how to abide by the rules alone. So what is his punishment? That these kids that are in 8th grade were unable to wrestle for their West Michigan Conference. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, Rachel Shields. Yeah, come on up here so we can read it. Sorry.
Okay. My name is Rachel Shields. This is my husband, Steve. This is our son, Landon. He's a 6th grader and he attended NBC up until March 18th. Our child was physically assaulted by 4 of his teammates on the wrestling team at the school at the beginning of wrestling practice in the locker room on March 5th. He was held down by 3 of those teammates who continually hit him on his bare back while Landon screamed at them to stop. They continued hitting him until he cried. Landon's dad is a volunteer coach who, along with the head coach, saw Landon's back right after it happened. It was bright red and had welts on it. The head coach scolded the team, and 1 individual had stepped up and apologized to Landon. The other 3 did not. The coach, the principal, and the athletic director were all informed of what happened, and we were told they were taking care of the situation. My husband and I spoke with Mr. Crow on March 11th, and he informed us they were aware of who it was and who was responsible, but they couldn't tell us what the consequences would be. There was a wrestling meet that evening, and these boys were allowed to wrestle. We sent an email that night to the principal, athletic director, and superintendent asking why these boys were eligible to wrestle when students are held accountable for grades and behavior in the classroom, making them ineligible for sports the following week. Why would this situation with my son be treated any differently? These boys were allowed to wrestle in a home meet on Monday, March 11th, and then again on Saturday, March 16th in a conference tournament. The severity of what they did to our son should have resulted in immediate suspension from the wrestling team and or school, or at least immediate ineligibility for wrestling. To us, this situation was not handled correctly or in a timely manner. A physical assault should result in consequences more than just a 1-hour detention. A physical assault should result in due to our son fearing for his safety at school because these boys were still making comments to him after the school was handling it, we decided to move him to another school. Landon did not report all of these comments to the school because he saw these boys had no consequences and were not held accountable for assaulting him, so we assumed the school would not be of any help. Landon was also concerned that if he did report these remarks, what the boys might do to him. They had already gotten away with physically assaulting him, would they do it again? Our son still had a handprint on his back 3 hours after this incident happened, and I have pictures to prove it. This is not okay. We feel those responsible should have been given a much harsher discipline than they received, as we could have, and we still could go to the police to report this. The school, the athletic director, and superintendent have expressed no remorse or accountability for what happened to Landon. It is hard to believe that a physical assault resulted in only a 1-hour detention. Students need to be held accountable for their actions. We trusted the school to adequately take care of the situation, and they did not. The decision to transfer Landon was not an easy one. Montague is the only school he has ever attended, but due to the fact that he no longer felt safe there and the school did nothing to ensure his safety, we did what we felt was best for him, physically, mentally, and emotionally. There are some people who are concerned about Montague losing students to other schools, but I think it's time Montague schools looks into how they handle situations involving their students. We feel they failed us. We are bringing this situation to your guys' attention to ensure this doesn't happen to a student. And we are demanding a follow-up from you guys, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments at this time? Okay. Item 7 on the agenda is reports. Jeff.
All right, we're going to begin with our principal meaningful minute.
I'll go first. Sure. All right, the high school. We started the 4th marking period today. Spring sports are well underway. We did delay some things today so that nobody would inadvertently look at the eclipse. State testing for juniors begins on Thursday. They have the ACT work keys on Thursday, and then next week, freshmen through juniors will take the PSAT or SAT, and then the juniors take the MSTEP next Thursday. We are actually next Friday planning kind of a celebration. Testing is over, community breakfast, and then we're also doing a rock, paper, scissors game that will last throughout the day, similar to what the middle school did last month with a little assembly at the end of the day. Prom is April 20th, so if anybody wants to come, we're always looking for more chaperones. It is at Bella Maria's Event Center in Norton Shores. Any seniors who are planning to go to MCC next year, many of whom will take advantage of the Promise. I'm not sure if you've all seen that the Promise GPA is now a 3.0, so we have many more students who qualify for that and can take advantage of that. But they will be going down there on April 25th, kind of a mini orientation where they can get all of their paperwork filled out, have a tour, do all of those things to get ready to attend there. Mrs. Cool is organizing a decision day brunch and assembly for the seniors. Kind of a nice thing, everybody gets their name announced, they get their picture on the screen and what their plans are for next year. That is on May 3rd. Another thing on May 3rd in the evening, if you have nothing to do, stop by the Playhouse. There is a Night of Hope that is sponsored by the family of Ava Vanderstelt, who helped to raise the funds for both the Hope Squads at Montague and Whitehall. And they're actually raising money for scholarships and to support our Hope Squads moving forward. The educators will be playing, and there will be some presentations throughout the evening. It's actually free to get in, and then they will be accepting donations all night. We have the Ride Your Bike to School Day, Roll to School Day on May 8th. That is something that Safe Routes to Schools kind of puts on. It's the same group that we're working with the city to look at sidewalks and things like that. So if you have a bike and you can ride it to school on May 8th for work. Ride with Pride. I'm not sure if you've seen the white car outside. That is actually car number 2. We are giving away 2 cars this year. 2 have been donated. The one that's out there is a stick. So there's a little bit of interesting ways to give that away. So the original car is a Ford Fusion. It's a regular car, everybody can drive it. That's the initial giveaway. If students want to be put in for this drawing, they can add their names to that, but not everyone's will go in there because it is the manual transmission. So people will have an opportunity to win 2 cars this year. But Ride with Pride is on May 10th, and we're planning lots of activities, the Renaissance class, to kind of make that a whole school spirit day, doing some things for the school, and then also doing some things that align with some SELs, social emotional learning, and things that promote well-being of all of our students.
May 6th, Animal Day. I'm doing a little bit of May because this will all happen before we come back. May 6th is Animal Day, put on by the FFA and also the AP breakfast that the AP teachers cook for all of those students. And then AP exams begin May 7th. Next board meeting, that week will be all things seniors. So that will be the seniors last week. It will be the senior day out. It will be the senior awards that Thursday, and then graduation is May 17th. So make sure you have that on your calendar. And that's all for the backstory.
We'll make sure that all those dates are in the
Yes.
Friday updates too.
NBC, we got a number of things going. Track is underway, and we do start our state testing as well. We follow the same schedule as the high school, so our 8th graders will test Thursday. Next week, Tuesday, is the SAT. That following Thursday, the 8th grade have to do their second MSET. They have to do both science, social studies, and reading and math. At 8th grade, they do all 4. And then 2 weeks later, we have our 6th and 7th graders that we do in our MSTEP for math and language arts. We have, right before break, we had our winter 2 pep assembly, which are always a lot of fun. We have our first hour class with Mrs. Firestein. That class, they completely plan and run the pep assembly, so it is really fun to have our students run the assemblies, and they tell corny dad jokes in between all the little downtimes, and everyone has a great time. Lots of fun games for all of the kids to be involved in. We had our lunar eclipse today. All the kids had glasses, or the lunar eclipse, the solar eclipse. All the kids had glasses, so the classes were outside watching that today. Even our lunch ladies got in on the fun. They had a whole galaxy-themed lunch with star-shaped hash browns, complete with Blue Moon ice cream for everybody today in honor of the eclipse. So a lot of fun was had by all this afternoon. A couple of things at a district level. Montague was awarded another grant to improve literacy at the elementary, so Sandy and Jen can fill you in a little bit more on that, but quite a significant amount of money was brought into the district, and we'll be able to do a lot of training and upgrade our materials at the elementary level with that. And we had, this was 2 weeks ago, we had teachers and administrators at the ISD that were working around our district improvement plans, so looking what we want to do for school improvement, and started working on already some plans and things that we want to put in place for next school year. So we do have a district team that's coming together to work on planning all of those things along with our professional development. So that work is starting already.
May I stand on this side? Sure. I wasn't sure if that was the safer place. Okay. Well, since I last saw you, we've had a 3rd grade concert on all things Michigan, and very well attended. And as I mentioned to you before, we're bringing those concerts back to the RRO gym, and so it's like going to a Red Wing hockey game. It's standing room only, so it's a lot of fun. Our 2nd graders engaged in a day of planting with FFA. Tina Bradley, who is our library computer teacher, she attended the McCall conference in Grand Rapids with Mr. Dunstan and Chris. So I'm sure they have lots of stuff to bring back to us, new learning. We participated in the Safe Routes to School meeting and walked the neighborhood on a rainy day and found out we have a lot of areas that need sidewalks. But overall, the sidewalks that we do have around RRO are in pretty good shape. So that was a really good thing to know. We had an assembly before spring break where we honored our perfect attendance in February, and we honored our bus riders of the month and our walkers and our drop-offs of the month. And also we did a hero ticket drawing, and then the popular event at the assembly was a spelling bee amongst the teachers. And they got some pretty hard words, so they did a really good job though. And as Jim mentioned, we received a grant from the state of Michigan that amounts to about $180,000. And that money will be used to pay for training and planning, materials and coaching for our kindergarten through 5th grade staff to implement a new language arts curriculum. For us, MSTEP will start next week,
And so we are testing 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. 3rd and 4th graders will take math and English language arts, and in 5th grade we add in social studies and science. So for the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll be busy with that. Today we kicked off our 21-day challenge at both the MAC and at RRO, and students are challenged to read 15 minutes a night out loud to a parent, a grandparent, aunt, uncle, cousin, whatever, friend, sibling, and if they keep their tally for 21 days, then they bring it back and they'll get a little prize, and then we'll put all of the names in for a big prize at the end. Today was a really big hit with the solar eclipse. It was really great to see. I know it's different with middle school, but elementary kids, it's really a lot of fun because most of them have not really understood it or ever seen one. So they were all outside, some sitting, some standing, all with their glasses on. So we have lots of pictures to share. We'll put in the staff news for everybody to see. And then just kind of as a little fun gesture, Jen and I kicked off today our Lucky Duck with the staff, and so each staff member got a little rubber ducky with a number on it, and every day we draw a number, and then they come to the office and they get a prize, and it's just time kind of to keep up staff morale and have a lot of fun, and to let you know we are working really hard, just like a duck, paddling really hard underneath, but it looks like smooth sailing.
Well played.
Yeah. So this is the hard part. I have 1 grade level. I just want you to one, and then you know, and Sandy stole a couple of my things already. So
sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. So basically, one of the things that happened recently, we had spring FFA right before they did their little spring trail thing with the kindergartners, which was super fun, and I thank the high schoolers for that. We have. I'm just going to bring it up one more time. We have Roundup, April 25th. And one of the other things we had today, I was super excited. I filled in some random thing, and today we received at the MAC, but it's not just for the MAC, 20 boxes of Scholastic books for students. I mean, grades pre-K all the way to 5. Yeah, it was just a random thing, and I was super excited like Christmas, and I'm like, so I can't wait to get pictures of all the kids with all the new books that we got today. And then, let's see, so we do have our funding for our summer literacy and math, I'm going to add, this year at the park. So the kindergartners on Title I and all the students come to the park. I think Allie started that last year. Well, a couple of years now. But the math, we're going to start this year. The threat assessment. So right the day before spring break, I attended the threat assessment training, just so that I could get an idea of what that looks like for elementary students and kindergarten students. We've had some things happen. We've had some students that are really excited to pull the fire alarm on us this year, like 3 in 1 week. So, so I just went to learn. I learned a ton, and I learned about what that looks like in an elementary school and what threat assessments look like in kindergarten, which is still a little gray. And the docs, process map, Roundup. That's it.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all.
Awesome. Principals, thank you so much for sharing the updates across the buildings. Next, we have superintendent comments. I just want to point out, I neglected last month in the consent agenda, Karen Armstrong, speech therapist, retirement was on there. And I just want to point that out. She is over 27 years here within the district and a great employee for us, and she'll be sorely missed as she will be retiring at the end of the year. We do have a posting to fill that position moving forward to next year, but thank you to Karen for that work. Also a reminder, the Employee Community Relations meeting is next Monday, April 15th at 5:30. If that's not going to work, please let me know. And then, just as a safety, there are a lot of safety dollars out there that we are looking at with schools and moving forward. You'll see some of that moving forward with the cameras as well, but we will be moving forward with Knox boxes for our law enforcement around each of the buildings. And we will be purchasing some 800 megahertz radios, both base stations and portable radios. You'll be hearing more about that in the future, but I know I had mentioned it. I didn't want you to think I forgot about it. We're working with Chief Gale, or former Chief Gale with MASD, John Gale, on these processes, and our local SRO, Officer Tenfold. And that is it for superintendent comments.
All right. Item 8 on the agenda is new business. Item 8A is consideration of approving the purchase of FFA truck. Suggested motion to approve the purchase of the 2024 Silverado 1500 per the bid from Don Rittner Chevrolet in the amount of $49,341 to be paid from 61S funds. Tom moved. Support by Scott. Discussion.
So the FFA was awarded a state and local grant in order to purchase a truck to transport students and materials in the many events and things that they do. We reached out to 4 local dealerships and 3 submitted bids. Those are the 3 bids that you see there in your packet. After reviewing all the bids, it's the district's recommendation to approve the bid from Don Rittner Chevrolet. As you can see, it was not the lowest bid, but we took into consideration the quality of the vehicle and its comfortability and conformity to the specifications that were asked for within our ag department there. And also just the continued support that Don Rittner has shown to that program and the FFA program and the work that they've done. As the district's desire to stay local as possible within this purchase as well.
What were the specific requirements that they asked for that this one met better?
So
I guess my question would be along with Joel's is, did anyone just go over to a dealership and say, hey, how much for that truck in the lot, or is there specific equipment that it needed? I mean, I'm not opposed to having.
Yep. So what we did is we put together, we reached out to them with what we were looking with the ag department, and Stacy reached out to the different dealerships, and what we were looking for in the specifics are.
I mean, is this something that had to be ordered? Because from the bid packages, some of them were like, well, we can't get that to you by this time, or we can't get it to you by that time, but they have vehicles on the lot. Can't we just go over and say, we'll take that one and cut them a check and be done with it?
I think as a process is concerned, we would want to bring it to the board as far as the purchase, so to just go and do that. We could in a process say we'd like to purchase a truck, we'd like to go to the lot and have a purchase price up to a certain level. As far as transparency, I guess, is concerned, we wanted to make sure we put, hey, we're looking for these things. There were, slight discrepancies in each of the model, and they put on some add-on values to those as far as running boards or some of the other add-ons, whatever included.
And again, I'm not opposed to them having a vehicle. But
Yeah.
You mentioned transporting students. Is the truck going to be enough room to transport students?
These trucks will have enough as to what they're looking for, and it's really more the towing capacity, I think, is what they were looking for in some of these trucks. As far as hitch receivers, having both 7-pin and 4-pin wiring harnesses, trailer bait controller, running board, spray and bread liner, locking rear axle with limited slip were some of the things that we're looking for in these. So it is a point though. I mean, we could look for
Just curious.
better pricing, but
with the last time with the buses, with the used market today, it's so hot. I think that's part of that challenge is what we approved today might not be available tomorrow. Not that I'm opposed either. Tom, we're looking at what's on the lot.
I think the way that to do that, if we did want to go that way, as far as the process is concerned, is we would, as a board, agree to up to a certain amount, so that then that could take place like that.
Do we have any arrangements with, is part of our plan to purchase from trucks or vehicles from various dealers, local dealers, and so that's part of our plan to choose a more expensive option, but to spread out our spend within the district? That's part, I guess, the questions on why Chevy, why this dealer, just, I think those are good reasons to do that.
Correct. For this one, it is 61S funds. So this was, we applied and said, hey, we're looking to purchase this. We received those funds. We have to use, the funds that we receive have to be used only for this vehicle. So if the price was less, so for instance, with the one that is a little over, about almost $5,000 less, we would have to give that money back to the state in that process as well. Their concern as a program was also is that when they're going around as far as their programming is concerned and meeting with local businesses to pull up to the local business in a vehicle that they did not get the bid on, that would be something different. And the others here being Great Lakes Ford and Fremont Ford, although we have purchased vehicles from them in the past as well, not necessarily a big program donator in that process as well. We did reach out to Lakeshore. They did not have options available at that point in time.
They did buy a vehicle from Lakeshore, right? It was,
We did, yep. So I wouldn't say that we're, I guess I'm not quite sure if I'm answering your question, but we do try to work around and look at the local options, and if it's close, to do so, but yet we want to be fiscally responsible. And I do think it's different when it's grant funds versus general fund dollars, where I think with general fund dollars, we definitely look for that fiscal option, much more prevalent than that.
Well, I think it'd be easier for repairs too if we had somewhere local.
What's
You
that?
know, it'd be easier for repairs if you needed to have the truck go in the shop or
It's
oil
way
changes
easier.
or whatever. It's yeah, you have
Just
someone
buy
local.
the local truck.
Right. And they do have like 2 or 3 kids at a time that will go out and run errands and deliver stuff, and so I think
but I don't think they can drive the school vehicle.
they do what?
I don't think they can drive the school
We'll get them a chauffeur.
They can't.
They don't,
They
but
ride
currently our
Right.
adult that is driving is using their own vehicle, and we would like to get away
Yeah.
from that
Right.
process.
I'd like them to get away with using my vehicle too.
Hurry and vote.
Yeah, we've done that too.
So any additional discussion,
I'm
questions?
sorry to
Joel,
watch
did you-
over you. Did
Yeah.
you have something else, Joe? Okay.
I'm not opposed to this at all, just joining us.
Okay. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, consideration to approve security cameras. The suggested motion is to approve the purchase and installation of security cameras per REMC bid from Charter Technologies up to $99,859.75 to be paid from the 31AA safety grant.
So, support.
Moved by Scott, support by Tom. Discussion.
So with the 31AA safety grant funds that we do have a focus to make sure that we are providing a nice, safe, secure environment for our students to learn here. In going through, we have been putting off some of our camera purchases over time. We're trying to piecemeal in some regards, being fiscally responsible of purchasing one camera at a time in different spots when cameras would break. We have Steve, who is here with us today, did an extensive job, a great job, but he walked the buildings as a whole, getting a great inventory of all our cameras, walked the buildings with each of the principals. I actually walked the buildings with him as well, talking around some of these purchases. Obviously, that's a large dollar amount, and that, I'll be honest with you, when I first saw it, I said, whoa. So what are we exactly doing in that? I think this will provide a lot more coverage throughout our buildings. And is it going to be everything covered? No, but yet I think in the high traffic areas where the cameras are needed for certain situations, as far as when problems arise, that will help quite a bit in that process. This will be not only an additional cameras in some spots, but then the replacement of ones that have seen their time. We'll take those cameras and we'll utilize those. It can be a daunting task when you're trying to investigate on some certain situations and the camera's just, well, it's there, but you can't quite get the visuals that you're looking for, or it doesn't span the gaps that you're looking for. There's gaps in a hallway or things like that. I guess what kind of questions may you have? I know that that's a lot. There's a number of different cameras, each of the buildings going through it.
Total cameras.
So it will end up being a total of, Steve, you know that number off the top of your head, or do I gotta count these up?
I would say approximately 23, 25.
As I said, like,
Somewhere in that range.
upper 20s for the new.
Yeah.
How come no cameras in the classrooms?
I don't think that that's where our need is at this point in time.
We run a concession stand at the football field either, so we've got some out there.
Right. Oh, we're putting them to the traffic areas where there's large amounts of people, not necessarily the concession stand, but the areas out where people are. So there will be some cameras out at that football stadium area to have visuals out there as well.
Is this a hardware only bid, or are they running to some of those new locations? Are they extending network to those locations? You know? Steve?
So like for the football stadium, the question is it's not just the hardware, but it's the extension of the
So they're coming in, running everything,
Installation.
and
installation,
installation.
the whole works, correct.
Yeah. The reason I ask is just for hardware, that seems a little high. Like if it's installation included, it seems a lot more reasonable. So, yeah.
So will the SRO have access or something that he can use and see all the buildings when he's in one location? So
Yep, he currently has that already with our
So he
current
does,
cameras.
okay.
Yep, he has that access along with all of our principals have access to all the buildings, I believe, correct? Yes, and myself.
That's a question I would have is who now maintains or mans the additional cameras? Is that something that's always just running in the background and they're viewed as needed? So this just is
correct. And
another
it goes to a server.
options.
It depends on the camera and the location of it as to how we've set it up. Some usually I would say on average 30 days worth of camera saving time, so that we can go back over that period of time. Some a little less, some a little more, depending on the areas that we put in for that.
Steve, it sounds like you've spec'd the server, so you're good with the hardware and the compatibility with our systems?
Yeah, and I feel good about that. I also, with the idea of adding a server on there, is that with the new gymnasium, we're adding quite a few cameras there as well. So the server, having a third server will help us cover that as well as what we're doing right now. So as far as planning ahead when that new gymnasium is ready as well.
Steve, what kind of playback will this give us? Like how far back are we be able to go with all the new cameras? You know? So like
the 30 days.
It's 30 days?
Well, and I say on average.
Yeah.
There's some depending on the location, we go back 2 weeks. Some we've got more 50 to 60 days, depending on how much is going on in that area. But our rule of thumb for the principals, as far as if there is a situation or something is viewed, make sure to save because that eventually that would get deleted.
Yeah. The reason I ask guys is the more farther back you go, the more expensive the server gets, the more hardware you need.
So does this price include, with the server, does this include the redaction software for FOIA?
No.
You might want to consider getting that.
What's the comment on redaction software?
There's a redaction software for FOIA requests.
oh,
I don't understand what you mean.
So a Freedom of Information
Information
Act,
Act.
if a person is under 18, they're a child, then that stuff needs to all be redacted if someone were to request it. Say, I want all your camera coverage from this day in this classroom or in this hallway. How are you going to redact all the?
We would only supply the clips that don't have that parts of that clip.
You get sued.
Does that count in, I guess you might be better versed at this than me, but like, does that count in a area that is considered public?
Yes.
Doesn't?
Anyone under the age of 18 cannot be released to the public.
In a school? Or
You just can't do training.
I just came from FOIA training.
yeah, I was curious.
That's why I'm asking.
That's why I asked you.
Well, yeah, I guess that must just be in the school kind of thing.
It's anywhere. I mean, you can record them. but
You
if I
just
were to-
can't release it for
You can't
Okay,
release
that
it.
makes
You can record all you want, but if I send in a request saying, hey, I want all your security cameras for this event, this time in this hallway or this cafeteria or whatever.
I guess I'm not
You
trying
can't
to go.
just give it to 'em
I'm not
because-
trying to go down a rabbit hole. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking you can, from what I've understood, you can film in a public area regardless of age, legally.
You can legally film,
Yeah.
but you can't release the recording without redacting the images if they're under.
I think.
Sporting events?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can. Yeah,
There's sporting events and there's FOIA requests. And
So
Which
for
are
us,
two different
with it,
things.
I guess
I would
as a
recommend
process
you-
that we would go through with a FOIA request, we would get that request, we'd have a 10-day window to reply back, and we would say, hey, we would ask for an extension, or we would look, and we'd put together a price of what that would take in cost. So however much time that would take for us to bring this
That's how you're
legislative
mitigating that risk.
to.
But
is
my
there-
question is though, is with this purchase, is this included, or would you have to purchase this separately? Because most providers aren't gonna give you that cost up front. They're gonna say, no, you gotta buy that separate.
Correct. We are not, we did not, that is not in this
Might
price.
want to consider. Just saying.
Additional discussion. Okay, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, Neola policy, second reading and approval. The suggested motion is to approve the policies in November 2023 Neola special update as presented.
So,
Support.
Moved by Tom, support by Scott.
All right, so these did go to the policy committee, was shared with the board last month as well. Just a reminder, this is the legislative updates, made substantially changes due to the PARA Act, the Public Employment Relations Act, as well as related changes to the revised school code, the RSC. So with those changes, it just allows us to make sure that we are legally binding now within that. You can see a number of different things around school administrator evaluation, staff reduction recalls, employment professional staff assignment transfers, those, and it just small language changes that have to take place within that process.
Any additional discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 9 is a closed session for superintendent evaluation.
so
You have to have motion first.
Motion.
Would you make the motion?
Minutes, Tom made the motion, support by Scott.
All right, roll call vote. Mr. Rath?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
yes.
Mrs. Francis? Yes. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Beisheisen?
Yes.
Mrs. Newbauer?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, students, at this time, you can come on up. We'll sign off on agendas. We'll give a couple minutes before we go into the closed session.